Could be 30.
30?
We're either 30 or 31 with this one.
All right, well, either, both. Good
Should
good
know.
achievement.
Feels like it's a milestone either way. So, topic for our discussion today, which is why I've ended up with me instead of Dan, is alcohol in the workplace. So, more specifically, how a lot of socials are based around drinking and going to the pub, and what the responsibility is of an employer to provide socials that are just focused on drinking and not pushing that so heavily as part of your culture.
Okay, and you're here because Dan's an advocate of beer.
Partly, yeah. No, I'm here because, obviously, for those who don't know, we've got like a little social committee at Flawn, which you guys set up, and obviously I'm in that, so I'm responsible for planning and running a lot of our social events, so I can see this from that point of view, which Dad would just be like, pub!
Yeah, I think, when was it? I think when we first set up, when we were about 5 or 6 people, we used to go to the pub every Friday.
Which is pretty common
at lunchtime.
in workplaces.
And like buy everybody a drink or two. And I think when we got to about 9 or 10 people, we swapped that for a 4 p.m. finish on a Friday, because what we were learning as we had a bit more of a diverse group of people was not everybody wants to go to the pub.
No, they don't.
And not everybody wants to drink.
And it's quite... Obviously, you can go to the pub, but you don't have to have a beer.
Yeah, I know that's a thing, but
it's still an activity that is primarily focused on having an alcoholic drink.
Well, you go to a pub, it's sort of implied, isn't it? But with the socials, same thing. We used to sort of, in the early days, organise socials around at least putting a time slot in there to go to the pub or have some sort of presence of alcohol, whether that was subconscious or what. But I think in the last, take COVID out of the equation, that's 2 years, isn't it? So I think in the last maybe year before COVID and then from COVID onwards, we've really made an effort to exclude it almost.
Yeah. Which obviously because we only set up this social committee when was it? Start last year?
That was last April or something like that, I think, yeah.
So we've not even done like a full year of it, but obviously when we spoke to you about it originally, a lot of what we talked about was making sure that we do stuff that isn't just centred around alcohol and that it reflects who we are as a business and make sure it's things that everybody wants to get involved in as well.
Yeah, I think if you think about the purpose of social events and the mechanics of them, doing something that purposefully veers away from that it almost pushes you into doing something that you probably wouldn't normally do.
Yeah, definitely.
But also from a team building and culture perspective, I think it's more valuable that way.
I mean, a lot of people do need or rely on a drink to break the ice and be a bit more comfortable and stuff, but if you can provide an activity that everybody's going to enjoy and they're hopefully in a team where they do already feel comfortable.
I think people that are on the end of the spectrum where they don't like a drink, they don't really get involved in that, it's more difficult for those people to be in an environment where the majority of people are on board with having a beer here and there to feel comfortable in that situation. So I think you've almost got to skew it the other way.
So I very, very rarely drink at any of our social events because I'm always driving because I live a million miles away and I can't get home. But I also just don't like drinking loads anymore. So I'm pretty much every event we've done, I'd say in the last year, I've been stone cold sober. And it doesn't bother me, but I am that person that I'm quite happy.
You're the person that everybody comes to the next day and goes, what happened?
But I'm quite happy in a situation without a drink. That doesn't bother me, but I know a lot of people don't feel like that. But I've even stuff like our social at Christmas, well, obviously it was held in a pub.
It was held in a brewery.
But even then we made sure there was something going on that was like an activity outside of drinking. So it's quite easy to go, oh, the social is the pub.
Yeah, yeah.
And if the social is the pub and there isn't something else to do, the only activity there is actually to drink.
Yeah.
So that's the difference, isn't it? It's not that you can't have a social in a pub or you can't go hang out at the pub after work or, you know, have a get together there. It's making sure there's something a little bit extra for those people that aren't partaking in the beers.
Yeah. I don't think that the agencies are notorious out there for having a drinking culture, but I don't think any agency has ever really like enforced going to the pub as a thing. I think it comes down to just paying attention to your team. And
but it's more the pressure though, isn't it? If everybody else is going to the pub and everybody is drinking, it's the pressure that you then put on those employees that they feel like they have to get involved in that because there's not an alternative, or they feel like they're the odd one out at that stage.
But again, if you pay attention and you see that, then you do something about it, don't you, ultimately?
Hopefully.
You don't just let it happen.
Let everybody keep forcing everyone else to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would have thought so. Oh, just got OB.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. I think there's the reference of it that's been in the media recently about drinking culture in the workplace is probably referencing a more forced approach to it. Whereas I think social events, team building events, things like that are done out of a want to give people the opportunity to maybe speak to people that they don't normally speak to, or build relationships on a personal level, perhaps, which is both are really important. I think that's what you've got to go into it thinking. You've got to try and see the outcome that you're trying to achieve off the back of it, because it can't just be a shotgun approach, I don't think, anymore, where you're just like, right, we need to do a social.
Yeah, and I suppose for some people, the going out drinking social might be like a let off steam type thing. And I think the other one that's quite bad, aside from agencies, is recruitment. That's quite heavily focused on like going out and everybody getting really drunk at the end of a quarter or whatever else, however often they do it. And it's often those, you can kind of see, can't you? It's those industries where it can be like quite fast paced. It can be, you know, quite full on and busy. And then you get to this thing and it's a chance for everybody to just completely relax and it's a big blowout. But if you're not overworking your team and causing a lot of stress, hopefully you should need a massive blowout where everybody needs to go and get really drunk too.
I think that sort of leans into what I was saying there about it being about the culture and the genuine, like if you've got an environment and you've built a team that actually get on and they want to spend time with each other, then I think it becomes less pressured in whatever environment it's in. Whereas if you, and I'm not pigeonholing recruitment, but I imagine that a bit more of a toxic culture breeds that situation where when there is a do, everybody just goes to the extreme. Because perhaps they're not that asked about spending time with the people that are there.
No.
So people get drunk, lowers their inhibitions.
And it's kind of that thing of, you know, someone else is paying and
it gives the false impression, doesn't it, of having a good time.
Yeah. No, I think we've done some really nice ones this year. So, like, obviously, our Christmas one was, yes, it was a bit of a party, but we also did, like, some nice, like, casino games and, like, games on the table and stuff like that. And I think they're the little bits that you've got to add in. And, like, even things like, you know, we often just do, like, a little games night in the office after work and just get a few bits of food in. And, yes, there are beers, but optional. It's not like a...
It's not a rager.
Yeah, the event isn't, oh, everybody stay behind tonight and let's drink.
But I think that's a really good example, though. The movie nights that we did one for Halloween, we did one for Christmas, that were, I think, prompted by people outside the social committee.
Yeah, they were, yeah.
That is a really good indicator of people feeling comfortable enough with the colleagues to want to spend what would be personal time with those people.
To sit on a sofa and watch a film you've seen a million times before.
Yeah. I mean, granted, it's in the office, but that, again, all these things are pluses. Nice office environment, good working environment, good people that you want to then spend time with, and that the value that brings, if you can hit that from a employer's standpoint, is how it should be done.
Yeah, and it's thinking about, so like when we designed the office, we were constantly thinking about how to make it a nice place that people want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not considering that, yes, we have put a bar in.
Yeah,
There is a bar at the end of the office,
neglected to mention
but it's, you know, it's not the only thing that's there. There's these nice little cosy corners where you can sit and have a nice movie night, you can sit and have a nice games night. That's like a very small part of the office.
Conversation.
Yeah, a conversation.
The underrated conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, without being, you know, propped up by a bar or with a beer in your hand.
Unless it's Dan.
Unless it's done.
No, I'm joking.
Check out his headshot.